Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. So first of all, thank you so much for all the love and support that you have shown on our previous video, Shell Scripting Zero to Hero for Beginners. And today, here I am with one more episode where I'll talk about the advanced shell scripting concepts. But before that, if you haven't watched our previous video, the video is right here. Go to my channel, click on the recently uploaded, and you will find the video here. Or else, you can also find the link in the description section. If you're watching this video directly, I would highly recommend you to go and watch the previous video and come back. Okay, so now without wasting any time, I'm here. I have logged into an EC2 instance. The instance is with an, I created with a Ubuntu image. You can create with whatever you want. Like we learned in our previous video, what we are focusing is to learn bash scripting, only the bash scripting, because it is one of the widely used ones. So it is available on all of the operating systems. So don't worry about it. Just install any operating system, whatever you like from your AWS, Azure, or any cloud provider, and you can simply start using the bash scripting. Okay, so before we jump into today's video, let's try to quickly remember what we have learned or where did we stop our previous video. So if you remember, we stopped our previous video exactly at writing a very simple shell script. We wrote a very simple shell script which prints or which creates some files and folders, and we executed it. We learned how to execute it, and we also looked at the popular commands for debugging the node health. Like, we learned about the df command, which will print all the information about the available storage space on this, or available the disk space on this particular virtual machine. And then we learned the free command, which will print the memory of the machine. And finally, we looked into the nproc, which will give us the CPU of the current machine. So it says there is only one CPU on the virtual machine. So these are one of the, or some of the few important parameters that will help any DevOps engineer to analyze a node machine. So let's say you are given a laptop. What is the first thing that you look at? You look at the specifications of your laptop, or even an iPhone or Android phone these days. What are people looking at is what is the number of, how much is the number of, sorry, what is the RAM configuration that your Android mobile is providing? What is the CPU your Android mobile is providing? How much storage is available on the Android mobile? Similarly, for a DevOps engineers, it is always important to look at all these parameters. And apart from this, we also learned about one more command, that is the top command, which will print all the information, like what are the currently running processes, and how much amount of tasks that are running at this point of time, which are the stopped processes, sleeping processes, running processes, which process is consuming how much amount of CPU, how much amount of memory. So we have all of this information as well. So these four commands are pretty useful commands, like df for printing your disk space, then free for getting a free memory on the disk, and the nproc command for analyzing what are the number of CPUs, and finally the top command. So top command can be considered as a command that will help you to analyze the node status. But so today, what we will focus is we will try to run a custom node script, and this node script will detect the node health of your virtual machine. So let's say we'll write a shell script. We'll use this shell script in our, we'll try to put it in our Git repository. And whenever somebody comes to us and says, okay, Abhishek, I want to understand what is going wrong on my virtual machine. There is something that is not correct. So can you please help me out? What you will do, you will download the script from your from your GitHub, and will directly execute it, and it will send out all the details saying that okay, some things is suspicious with respect to the memory or CPU. So this is something that we'll try to build today. For that, what we have to do, we have to start with writing a shell script. So it's called node health.sh, let's say. So we will use this script. We will try to enhance the script stage by stage, so that we understand what are the good practices, how do we write shell script in a structured manner, and what are some of the practices that we did not learn in our previous video that will help us in writing a better shell script. Firstly, like I mentioned you, like I told you in our previous video, we start with a shebang always, followed by what is the executable that we are trying to use. So in our case, it is bash, and it is also an interview question that I mentioned, that always make sure you provide the executable that you are executing. What happens if you only provide sh? then sh will directly go to, it is a link to the executable, the default executable on your virtual machine. In case if it is not bash and it happens to be dash, then your script might fail because of some unexpected errors. So that's why always make sure you provide the right executable. Once that is done, in the previous class we did not discuss about this, but you always have to mention the details of this shell script. The details as such: who is the author? Why I'm using this hashtags? Because hashtags are used to create comments. So these are not executable shell commands, but this is something that provides you the information of the author of the file. So I'll say Abhishek is the author. And when is this file written? Like this file is written on 1st of December. And I'll mention some details like, are there any prerequisite for this script, or what is the purpose of this script? This script executes, and this script outputs the node health. Okay, let's say this is the purpose of the script. And finally, you can also provide details like what is the version of this script. Let's say this is version v1, and whenever you make any additional changes to this script, you can increment the version to v2, or you can also put the script in the GitHub where the version controlling is automatically added. Okay, so these are the details of the author, or this is called metadata information. So always provide the metadata information, because by just looking at the name of the file, nobody will understand what is this script file is. Let's say you'll create a shell script called addition.sh, but what is this addition? Is it addition of 2 numbers, addition of 3 numbers, 5 numbers? So such details we always provide in the metadata of the file. Perfect. So now we'll just use the same commands that we talked about. So we'll use df minus h for printing the disk space. We'll use free minus g for printing the memory. We'll use the other command, that is nproc, for printing the resources. Let's say we are using these 3 commands to output what are the different parameters on this virtual machine. Let's try to execute and let's see what happens. Okay, so I'll grant the permissions that are required. Chmod, you can use anything. I just use 777 because this is just a trivial script, and I'll just delete it once this video is done. So whenever you create script in your organization, make sure you grant the exact permissions. Okay, so now let me execute using /. Once I execute this, notice that it has provided all the information that is required, but by looking at this information, it is technically impossible to understand what is the output of which command. Like let's say this command, because I already know what I'm doing, so I'll understand, okay, this is the disk space. This is the output of the memory command. This is the output of the number of CPUs. But to efficiently write this script, there are 2 options. Okay, we'll talk about both the options. One option, so these are all the good practices that we are learning, right? So the first option is to use the echo statements. So what you can do is, before executing your command, you can simply say print the disk space. Or okay, so let me complete this and show you what happens if we execute print the memory. So now the output will be slightly better. Print the CPU. Now let's try to execute and see what happens. Okay, we'll use the same command to output, and we'll try to understand the difference. Now the difference is, before printing each and every command's output, the echo statement is making sure that the user understands what is the output about. So the echo statement says it prints the disk space, and this is the output of the disk space. Echo statement says this is the memory, and finally it says this is the CPU details. So isn't it better than the first one? Definitely yes. But we'll try to see what are the other approaches which usually developers follows. I mean, developers or the DevOps engineers who are writing the shell script. Because using echo statements all the times is not feasible. Like, in some of the shell script, you might have some thousands of commands. So if you want to use this echo statement all the times, it's not feasible. So what people usually do is use this command before beginning of the shell script. Like before you start writing your shell script, what you do is you have to use the set parameter to set this shell script in the debug mode. What does -x stands for? Debug mode. Okay, so if you use this set -x, all the commands that are executed, that gets executed in the debug mode. What do I mean by debug mode? Let's see the output, we will understand. Now if I try to execute this one, what happens is before every command output, now you see tf minus h. So this is the command executed and this is the output. Free minus g is the command executed and this is the output. Nproc is the command executed and this is the output. Isn't it much better than the echo statements? Because echo statements basically prints whatever you are typing. But the set minus x that we have set before the script, what it does is it will show you the command that it is executing and it will also print the output. So set minus x plus echo statement, always use the combination of both of them. Okay, so if you have a very huge script, always using echo statements will not help you, because you have to write lot and lot of echo statements, and when you're writing these echo statements also, sometimes you might make you might make mistakes. So use set minus x. So what did we learn till now? We learned about two good practices. One is always write the metadata information, and then whenever you start writing your script, use this parameter to set minus x. To set the script in the debug mode. So there are some cases where you might not want the user to show what are the commands that are executed. So in such cases, what you can do is you can remove this set minus x. Let's say that you are executing some commands which you don't want the user to know. So in such cases, you can simply come here and you can comment this one out. Okay, so isn't it so easy? Just set, just write one single line and your command will be, or your script will be executed in the debug mode. Perfect. Now let's go to the next concept, and we'll definitely come back to the script. Like I mentioned you, we'll enhance this script, and by enhancing this script, we'll learn about more and more things. But we will do it step by step so that you will understand what that command is, and when we try to put that command in the script, you will also understand, okay, so how we are able to write shell script by using these commands. Now we will learn about a command which will print all the processes in this virtual machine. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Let's say now you are watching my video. So what is the process that is getting executed on your any operating system virtual laptop that you're using? Let's say you're on Windows or you're on Mac. For example, we consider Windows. So this person who is watching my video, he might have opened Chrome. This is one process. And then he might have opened YouTube. Okay, and on a different window, let's say that he's using YouTube application and he has opened Chrome for Facebook or something, and he's watching my YouTube video, and parallelly he's also looking at Facebook. So there are two processes that are running, and there are some system processes as well. What do I mean by system processes? Let's say your operating system has a lot of programs inside your C drive, right? If you ever looked at those processes, so those are called the system processes. So at this point of time, let's say these are the three processes that are running. But on a virtual machine, there will be a lot and lot of processes that are running if you talk about your organizational virtual machines. Or let's say you are running Java applications on your virtual machine. So you are working for a company called Amazon. Okay, and in Amazon there are 2 to 300 microservices. Okay, so let's say this user has deployed, or the developer has deployed 200 microservices, and each of this application uses a different process, right? Because there are different virtual machines, there are different applications. So each application starts with a different process. Like YouTube has its own process, Chrome has its own process. Similarly, in Amazon, let's say you have login application, you have logout application, you have payments application, transactions application. So how do you find out what are the processes that are running? In Windows, it is easy. You will directly go to your laptop, you'll look into you'll go to your command prompt, or you'll go into the search section and find out what are the processes that are running. But here in a Linux machine which does not have a graphical user interface, by which I mean you don't have a user interface to click on the buttons and go and find the processes, there is a command to find out. This command is called ps minus ef, okay, or ps hyphen es. What does this ps hyphen ef does is ps stands for the processes, and hyphen f, basically using it provides the entire details of the process, like it provides the details of the processes in a full format. So that's why we call it ps hyphen es. So you can also just use the ps command, but it does not give you all the processes. Like there are some processes that are running in the background. There are some processes, like there are some stopped processes, daemon processes, zombie processes. So to figure out all the processes, what is the command that we use is we use ps space hyphen ef. So let's execute. You'll see that, okay, there is a Python that is running, right? In every virtual machine, there is Python by default. So Python is running by default. And then there are some Amazon processes that are running. Why? Because we are using an Amazon virtual machine. And there is some SSH daemon process that is running. So there are different processes that run in a virtual machine. So your task is to not just find out the process, but you want to find out the process IDs. What do I mean by process ID? So let's say this is the process. Let's say agent HTTY, or let's say Amazon processes are running here. So instead of finding out all the processes, I just want to find out the process ID of Amazon only, Amazon process only. Okay, so your manager comes to you and says, Abhishek, find out the processes that are running by Amazon and just get me the process IDs. So the first step that you will do is you will use PS minus EF. You'll find out that, okay, there are these many processes, out of which there are two Amazon processes that you can see. But because this is a long list, you might miss some things. What you want to make sure is you want to make use of scripting. So for that, there comes a very powerful command that is grep. Okay, so what you do is ps minus ef or ps hyphen ef. You'll use grep followed by Amazon. Okay, now let's see what happens. Okay, so out of all the processes that are listed, now we got only the processes that are running by Amazon. Ignore about this command. I'll tell you what this command is. I'll tell you what this output is. But for now, there are only two processes that are running by default by Amazon agent. So you can simply go back to your manager and share this output saying that, oh, okay, using the ps minus ef command, I found out that there are two Amazon processes that are running on this virtual machine. Take the details of it. Okay, so then your manager says, no, no, no. I just want the process IDs, not the processes. That means, he just wants these numbers. Why does he want this number? Because whenever you want to kill the process, or you want to take the thread dump of the process, you want to take the heap dump of the process, you make sure you use the process ID. Okay, you want to kill the process, you use process ID. You want to take the thread dump, you use process ID. Or anything that you want to do with the process, you always use the process ID only. Now, before we jump on to understanding how to fetch the process ID from this entire list, the first thing that you need to understand is this command. Okay, so what is this command? This command is split into two parts. The first part is ps minus ef, and the second part is grep Amazon. So we already know what ps minus ef is doing. ps minus ef is printing all the information about the processes that are running on this virtual machine. And what does this grep command does is, out of all the output that is generated, it only fetches the information that is required. Let's say you have 100 lines of code and you only want to get the line number 55 and 56. You can use the grep command. Or let's say you have list of names of employees. You only want to get the employee names with Sai or Harsha. So what you can do is you can say, let's say there is a command called get me usernames. This is not a command. Don't think this is a command. So let's say this is a command that gets, or this is a script that gets all the usernames. What you can do is you can say pipe grep Sai. So what happens? All the people names with Sai gets printed, like Sai Krishna or Sai Hari or whatever it is, they get printed. So this is the purpose of using the grep command. But apart from these two commands, there is one more important aspect of this command, that is the pipe parameter. So you need to understand what is pipe and why is it used. So this is one command, and grep Abhishek is another command, or grep Amazon is one more command. But who is integrating these two commands? So that is the pipe parameter. So what does the pipe parameter does? So pipe parameter sends the output of the first command to the second command. Got it? So let's say you have two commands and you want to send the output of first command to the second command. In such cases, you use the pipe command. Make sense? So the same example, if we go back, if you have a script and this script is returning a list of numbers, let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6, and you only want to get the number called 5. So what you'll do, you'll simply say grep 5. For your better understanding, what we can do is we can write some a very basic script called test.sh. And in this test.sh, what I'll do is I'll say echo 1, echo 11, echo 12, echo 55, echo 99. Okay, so this is, let's say that this is a very simple shell script. And what people are expecting here is when you execute this shell script, you want to retrieve all the numbers that has 1 in it. Let's say 1 has 1, 11 has also 1, 12 also has 1, but you don't want to print 55 and 99. So in such cases, what you can simply do is dot slash test sh, which will print all the numbers, followed by pipe grep 1. Let's see what happens. So it printed you 1, 11, 12. Okay, so this is what the power of the pipe command. Okay, so pipe command basically sends the output of the first command to the second command. Okay, isn't it clear? Perfect. Now, if we try to understand the entire command, firstly, we use the ps-ef to print all the processes that are running on this virtual machine. Then we use the pipe statement to print output of this command to send it to the grep command, which is trying to grep for the process called Amazon. Perfect. So end of the day, this command is turning out into a single command using the pipe parameter. So the other interesting aspect here is this command, I wrote it for your purpose of understanding. Okay, this command can also be executed in this way. Grep1 and the output of test.sh. Okay, so let's say you have output of test.sh and which is printing you something like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. Okay, so what does this grep command does is it will try to get the only numbers that has 1 in it using the same command as well. So for your understanding, I just used this way, but what you can also do is, let's say you have a for loop here. Okay, for I in 1 to 100, and you have all the numbers. So what you can simply do is you can make use of your, okay, so I think I'm complicating here, so we will discuss about this topic afterwards, but for now you understood what is the purpose of the pipe command. So pipe command sends the output of the first command to the second one. Very clear. So let's summarize what are the different things that we learned till now. Okay, so what are the different things that we learned? Firstly, we learned about the comments to write the file information. This is very, very important because without metadata information, if you share your script with somebody else, they will not understand what you wrote. Followed by, we also learned about the set minus x. What does this do? This will always help you to print your command in the debug mode or print your script in the debug mode. Then we understood how to find out all the processes that are running on a virtual machine using ps-ef. Then we learned about the grep command, which is used to filter the output of any output. I mean, if you have an output and you want to filter some information from the output, you can use the grep command. And finally, we also learned about the pipe statement. Okay, what does the pipe statement is used for? Pipe is used to get the output from the first command and send it to the second command. Perfect. There is an interview question which I want to bring it here. So people ask you to tell me what is the output of this command. Okay, so from what we learned till now, you will understand that, okay, date command. Okay, let's see what does date print. So date command will print you the today's date and all the information about today. So now if you try to understand here, this is or date is. So what is the expectation here? The date output, which is this one, has to be passed to the second command and it should print information like date is something like this, right? Tuesday, December 1st, 12/8, something like that. But let's see what happens if we execute this command. Date pipe echo today is. See what happened? It did not print the output of date. So now you should ask me, okay, Abhishek, you said that pipe is used to send the output of first command to the second command, but here it did not work out. So this is one of the interview questions that people usually ask you. Why the pipe did not do what it is expected to do? So the answer is very simple here. So there is a difference between your ps-ef command or your script. Let's say we executed the test.sh, right? And we try to use the grep command, or you can also use the echo command. But the difference here is date is a default command or it's a default shell command. And what it does is it sends the output, like the output that you see here, it sends this output to stdin. So in any system there are two channels, right? Or there are two log flows. One is stdin, and then you also have some things like std out, or you also have stdr. So these are the different channels that every virtual machine has. So what this date command does is it sends the output to stdin. Okay, so the input one. Pipe command only receives the information from the output that is typed from this command, but if this command is sending this information to stdin, this command will not work, or the pipe does not redirect the output of the first command to the second command. Okay, so this is one of the most asked interview questions, so keep in mind. So whenever somebody is giving you this command and asking you what will be the output, you should simply say that it will only print this, because date is a system default command, and using this command, what what this command does is it sends the output to stdin, but pipe will not be able to receive the information from stdin. Pipe can only receive the information if the command is not sending the information to stdin, and if the command is ready to pass the information to the next command. Okay, perfect. So I thought I'll explain you one interview question here, and we covered it. Perfect. So we'll move to the next one. So for our node health, what we'll try to do is we'll also try to add one more command that we learned, ps-ef. But your requirement here is not just to get ps-ef, but I want to get the Amazon processes. So ps-ef grep Amazon, followed by the question that your manager asked is, don't give me the entire Amazon information, only give me the process IDs. So for that, there is one command called awk. You can get it in multiple ways, but one of the most used command is awk. So learn about awk, because in the interviews or even in your real life scenarios, while you can get this information with different commands, like you can also use the cut command, people also use the other trim commands and the other things, but always learn about awk, because awk is a very powerful command. What awk does is, if you go to the man and you say awk, so awk is nothing but a pattern scanning and processing language. Okay, so if I have, if I don't want to confuse you, and if I simply say, so if you want to get some informations, like you want to get only the process ID, or whenever there is a string like this here, ps-ef, so this string has different uh, strings, right? So if you consider this as a sentence, this is a string, this is a string, and you have other strings as well. So let's say you want to retrieve only a specific column, or let's say you want to retrieve only the user information or the process information. So in such cases, you can use the awk command. So what awk does is it can filter out the information from your output. So the difference between grep command and the awk command is, grep command can directly give you the entire statements or the entire sentences, but awk command is very powerful, that it can also give you a specific columns from the output. So now how do we use this is, ps-ef pipe grep Amazon, followed by pipe awk. What awk does is, I'll explain you this command. Okay, so there is a delimiter that I'm using, that is space, followed by, I just want to print the second column. Okay, don't worry, I'll explain this to you. So now see, we got the process IDs only. So how did we do it? What is this specific command doing? Okay, so we'll try to understand it in a very simple way. So without this awk command, what we got the entire information. Now using the awk command, what we did is we only try to get the second. So let's say this is the entire string, and in this string there are this is the entire sentence, and in this sentence there are 5 strings, or let's say this is the entire row, and in this row there are columns. This is column number 1, this is column number 2, this is column number 3, 4, 5, and so on. So my requirement is, I just want to get the column number 2 from multiple rows. Okay, so in such purposes, you can directly use the awk command, which is very, very, very easy to retrieve all the columns that you are providing. Let's say instead of column 2, if I just change it to column 1, what happens? It gives the information of the user, like root user has started this process, root user has started this process, Ubuntu has started the last process. So this is how you can make use of the awk command along with the grep command to retrieve information of a specific column. Got it? Let's say now you try to tell me what will be the output of this file, this command. Okay, so I'll say my name is Abhishek, and then there is one more person, or let's say my employee ID is 111. So this is a file. From this file, what I want to do is I just want to retrieve the name of the person. So in such cases, I can simply say grep name followed by the file name. Okay, so what I did is I used the grep command, whatever I want to retrieve, followed by the name of the file. Okay, so it said that I mean, looking at the file, I understood that in this file there is an information about the name of the person, employee of the person, but you only asked me to get the name, so that's why I'm giving you the name of the person. So grep command is used to get the name of the person. But what I can do is I can make use of the awk command here. Okay, and I can say what is the row or what is the column here, 1 2 3 4. So I'll simply say print $4. So it prints the name of the person. Okay, so this is how you can use grep in combination with awk. So these are really powerful commands, and whenever you are making use of these commands, make sure that you retrieve the right information. Like, always make sure you use the right column number, and you use grep at the right place. Okay, so now if we go back to our script that we are writing, that is node health. So let's try to use the same command here as well. Okay, so we'll use everything at one place so that we will understand end of the day what did we learn today. Perfect. So I got this command also here. But whenever you are using pipe, there is one important thing. Let's say you're using pipe in your script. You have to make sure of using a specific syntax called set minus EO, or you'll use two commands, which is set minus E and set minus O pipefail. Now, why are these things required? This is another important topic, or these are another best practices that people usually use, and we'll try to understand why we have to use them as well. So what is the purpose of, we'll try to understand one by one. What is the purpose of set minus E, and what is the purpose of set minus O pipefail? If we talk about set minus E, what set minus E does is it exits the script. So exit the script when there is an error. Okay, so let's say you are writing 100 lines of shell script. Okay, and your shell script got failed in the line number 1 itself. But because you have not using set minus E, what happens is all the 100 lines get executed, which is not a good practice. So let's say you are writing a shell script for this specific order. Your order is create a user. Okay, then create a file, add the username to the file. Let's say this is the order that you want to follow. This is step 1. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so this is step 1, this is step 2, and this is step 3. So what happens if the step 1 fails and step 2 and step 3 gets executed? There is no use, right? Because firstly you want to create a user, then you want to create a file, only then you want to add the username to the file. But if you are writing your shell script without set minus E, what happens is the user will not be created for some reason. Let's say you wrote a wrong command here. So this did not get executed. So because set minus E is not set in your script, this command gets executed, this get executed, but end of the day, for the end user, there will be an empty file, and that file will not have any username. So what is the point of writing the script at that? So if you're not erroring out at the right time, what is even a point of writing the script? So that's why always make sure you write set minus E. Let's say I'm not using this one here. We'll see what happens without this one. So I'll write one random command here. Okay. Ideally, this is a wrong command. So what should happen? Your shell script should stop here. But let's see what happens. /nodehealth.sh. Okay, your shell script got executed and it gave all the output that is required. So any end user, what he will think is, okay, I got all the required information. Looks like the script is perfect, but he will not notice this line. Let's say this line is printing 1 lakh lines. Okay, so this line gets skipped away and you will the user will think, okay, everything is perfect. So what you have to do ideally is every time you write a script, make sure your script exits when there is an error. So for that reason, you just have to say set minus e. So these are the best practices, but depending upon your organizational requirements, you can change them. So now see what happened. It executed the first line, second line, then it said, okay, there is some unknown command here. I don't know what is this. So I'm exiting. I'm just throwing out an error saying that I don't know what this is. So I'll not execute the script further. Isn't this good? So always make sure you use this command whenever you are writing the shell script, that is set minus e. But one of the drawbacks or one of the use cases of set minus e is it will not error out when there is a pipe. Okay, so that's why we have to use this command as well. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll show you. So let's say this command is not there. Okay, so what is the drawback of set minus e is if somebody does something like this, even though this is an error command or this command does not exist, if somebody uses a pipe and he will try to say pipe echo, so what happens is this script gets executed one more time. Okay, I mean this script gets executed again. The drawback here is whenever there is a pipe, what set minus e thinks is, okay, if the last command gets executed, I am fine with it. Let's say there are 3 commands here and the last command is again an error. So let's see what happens. Okay, so it stopped again. So what set minus e does without this command is it only looks for the last command in your pipe arguments. Let's say there are 10 commands here and your fourth command, again if you try to add echo here, again your script will pass. So it will only check the authenticity of your last command or the genuinity of your last command. It will not bother about the other commands. So that's why whenever you are using set minus e, by default use set minus o pipe fail as well, because the set minus e will not catch any pipe failures. So when you enable this pipe failure, then your script will pass. So for example, now let me do the same thing. Okay, so ideally without pipe fail, the script was failing, but now the script was passing. Now let's see what happens. What I'm expecting is this script should error out saying that the second or the third line of your script is wrong. See, it mentioned these things saying that I don't know what this is. So that's why set minus o pipe fail is very, very important. So always when you're using set minus e, which exits the script when there is an error, you also make sure that you use set minus o pipe fail. So this is the purpose of using set minus x, set minus e, and set minus o pipe fail. So some people also do the entire things in the same command. Like instead of writing all of these things, what people do is they just write it in the same line, saying that. So they can also write it like this. Don't confuse if they are writing set minus exo pipefail. Okay, it is the same command. So you can append all of them into a same line as well, but never do this. At least this is my suggestion, because always you should have a flexibility of removing one of these things. Let's say due to some requirement in my organization, I should accept a pipe failure. Let's say even if there is a pipe failure, I want to execute my script. So in such cases, I can simply comment out this one. Or let's say I don't want to execute this in the debug mode. Okay, so you can simply comment out this one. So there is a easiness to the user, right? uh, like if you remove the minus e or minus x or minus o entirely, then the person will not understand. So let's say you wrote it in this way, set minus exo pipefail, and unfortunately without knowingly some person deleted this one. Or let's say the person who has knowledge of it deleted this one, but the next person who wants to add this new parameter, he does not know what it was previously and how to add this set minus o. So that's why always try to split them into different lines so that it will be very easy to understand. Okay, so now let's remove this one. You understood what is set minus e, what is set minus x, and what is set minus o, right? I hope everything is clear because this is not a interactive session. So I'm hoping if you have any comments, like you try to put them in the comment section whenever you have any comments. And like you already know, I will definitely reply to all of your all of your replies, and I'll make sure that if there are any doubts which I am not able to explain in this video, I'll try to cover them in the comment section. Post your question in the comments, and I'll definitely reply to you uh, from my side. Okay, so now I think this is also clear for the people, so we can move to our next topic. Okay, let me close this file here. So what I'm doing is I'm adding all the best practices step by step so that you'll not get confused. Now, what is one of the major use case of DevOps engineers? Let's say there are 100 applications that are running, and if one of the application is failing, the first thing that comes to your mind is to look into the log file. Okay, so every time you run into an error, there is your one success sutra, that is go to the log file, find errors in the log file, right? What people usually do, this is the general practice that every DevOps engineer in every company does, is whenever an application is failing, they simply go to the log file and they try to find out the errors in the log file. Now, to do that, the log files are usually very huge, right? So for example, let's say this is a sample log file. I think I have a sample log file. Let me show you. GitHub, I just saved it in my GitHub. So this is just a dummy log file for your reference. Let me open that and show it to you. So I stored it in one of my repositories or Git repository. So this is a dummy log file here. If we take this in the raw format, so this is something how your application log files look like. Okay, so this is huge information, and whenever as a DevOps engineer you want to understand what are the errors in this log file, so there are definitely errors here. So if you search for error, you find out that okay, there is error here, but you want to do the same thing in your Linux platform. This is one of a general use case, day-to-day use cases. Almost every day people run into errors with their application, whether it's their Kubernetes pods or whether anything. So they usually go to the log files and they try to find out, okay, what is the error here? Okay, so these are the different log levels. There are trace level logging, there is info level logging, and there is error level logging. And my interest is to just find out the error that are the logs that are at the error level. But you already know how to do it. Let's say there is a log file here. What you will do is you will use the cat command to print the log file. And like I just explained, you will make use of the grep command to say that grep error. So you'll use this command and you'll get the output. Now, what is there in this? So there is a twist here. So what happens is whenever these logs get appended, like there are more and more of logs. So what people usually do is they upload the logs to some storage platforms. Let's say you uploaded the log to some Google storage, or you uploaded your log to some Amazon storage service like S3. Okay, or you uploaded the log file to Azure Blob Storage or whatever it is. So end of the day, you are storing these log files in some of the external storage devices, and it is not present on your virtual machine. So how do you want to retrieve this information? Is using the curl command. Okay, so curl is the another command that we are going to learn now. Okay, so what you do is you use the curl command and you can just provide the URL of the log file. So people will like, as a DevOps engineer, you will know where these log files are uploaded. So what you can simply do is you can copy the log file location, whether it is GitHub or whether it is Google storage or S3 bucket, whatever it is. So just paste the log file and your log file is completely here. Okay, so what curl command does? Curl command retrieves the information from internet. So let's say you want to make a API call. If you are coming from a development background, you must already know that whenever you try to reach a service, you try to reach the service using endpoints. So you must be aware of tools like Postman, right? So what Postman does, Postman basically helps you create a API request. So similarly, if you want to do it in shell scripting, you use a command called curl. So if somebody is coming from the Python background, it is something similar to the request module in Python. Okay, so this is how you get the required output using the curl command. So what I'm trying to do is if I get this requirement in my organization, so I use the curl command followed by the log file location that is in GitHub, and I get all the information. Now what I'll do is I'll simply say grep error, and I got the error logs. That's it, right? So isn't it simple? So what made it simple? The curl command. So using the curl command, you can retrieve all of this required information from any external devices, from the internet or anything. Also, like I mentioned, if you want to make a get request from to google.com, or you want to make a get request to any of your applications, you can also do that using curl command. So basically, if you want to learn more about it, you can simply do man, like I explained. There is a manual page for every command. Use the man command, and you get all the different parameters. Like let's say there is a website called, or there is an application endpoint called foo.bar.com. So what you can do is curl minus x get. Let's say your request is get. So what you can do is curl minus x get, followed by, you can say api dot foo.com. Okay, and if this, let's say this does not exist, so that's why you did not get any output. But if you think that foo.com exists, so you will get the information that is provided by the API of foo.com. So this is how your these days your Facebook APIs or your Google APIs or everything works, right? If you want to automate this in your scripting, you make use of the curl command. So like I mentioned, if somebody is coming from the Python background, they already know that there is request module, and using the request module, you can retrieve information about your APIs, or from your any of your regular resources. You use the curl command. So in our case, either we can use as a DevOps engineers, either we can use the curl command as an alternative to Postman or the request module in Python in your shell scripting, or if you want to retrieve any information like the log files, or you want to download any packages also. Let's say you want to download something from the internet, like you want to download Python. Even in such cases, you can use the curl command. Make sense? So there is one other command called wget. Okay, so wget also solves somewhat similar problem, but the problem here is using wget you cannot like, for example, let me share here. So I'll copy this log file here, and let's say wget. Okay, so what happened? The difference is that wget will download this log file. Okay, on the alternative side, what happened with the curl command? Curl command shared the output to you, whereas wget command actually stored this information in the log file. So now if I do ls, I have a log file called dummy log, and if I open this log file, I'll get the same information. Okay, so here what I need to do in this case is I just use the cat command followed by the grep command to get information about the errors. So here we did in two steps, that is using wget. It stored to a file. What is wget? Wget is basically like a download command. So it downloaded, and then finally I can use the grep command on the downloaded file. But what did curl command do? Curl command directly got the information. So that is the difference. You understood, right? So in curl command, you are able to do it using a single command, and using wget, you are able to do it using two different commands. So depending upon your requirement, whatever the command that is required, use the appropriate command. So let's say you don't want to save the output and store it to a file in your local disk, you can directly use the curl command. And if you want to store this information also into a file, you can use the wget command. So that is the difference between wget and curl. So this is your one more interview question. What is the difference between wget and curl? Okay, so now you learned about another two powerful commands, that is wget and curl. Now it's time for us to learn about one more command, that is, any guesses here? If somebody is following the flow in which we are going, like, what we are trying to do is we are trying to learn the commands that are most popular in the DevOps world, and what commands that a DevOps engineer use in a day-to-day basis. So that is what we are aiming to do. So one more important command that DevOps engineers usually use is the find command. What is find command? Okay, so I'll tell you what is find. Let's say that this Linux system, because this is a AWS Linux system that I just created, and it is just with 8 GB disk. It does not have a lot of files. This is a default instance that is provided. So there are very less number of files. Even if we go to the /etc here, so these are number of files. Even because this is a default system, it has some 100 or 200 files in the etc folder. But if you go to your virtual machine that you are using in your day-to-day basis, you might store many such informations, like, you might want to mount new volumes into it, and you might use it for storing different log files. So how do you find out files? let's say if I know already that there is a file called dummy log in this specific location, I'll directly go to this specific location and I'll open this dummy log. But let's say I don't know, for example, there is a file in the etc folder here. So this is the file pam.d. But I don't know that there is a file called pm.d in the etc folder. So somebody comes to you and says, Abhishek, there is a file called pm.d, but I don't know where exactly this file is in this virtual machine, but you have to find out and you have to give that file to me. So in such cases, you can make use of the find command. Okay. So what find command does is it will find using the location that you give. So for example, what I'll do is find slash. What does slash mean? Find everything. So slash means everything, all the files and all the folders in this virtual machine, followed by name, and I'll simply say pm.d. I want to execute this as a root user because, okay, before that, I should explain you how to go to your root user. Probably many people don't know it. So I will just quickly come back. So whenever you are in a Ubuntu user or any user, usually you don't use root user in your organization, because root is a very powerful user and you can delete anything. And let's say you delete some important files and folders, they cannot be retrieved back unless you have them in a mounted volume which has snapshots. So if we take case of a take a worst case, using root, you have deleted the file and there is no snapshots or it's not mounted on a volume. What happens is the file is lost forever. So that's why what you do, and there are no backups also. Obviously, if you have a backup, then you can always retrieve it. So in such cases, what you do is always prefer using your personal user or a service account user that is provided to you. But as a DevOps engineer, most of the times we will have access to the root user. So how do we go to the root user is using this command sudo hyphen, sudo su hyphen. So this will take you to the root user. Now, what are the different things that we used here? So sudo means substitute user do. So using sudo, you can go to any user. Let's say there is a user on this machine called Abhishek. So using sudo, you can actually go to the Abhishek user, or using sudo, you can go to a user called Harsha. So different users, basically just the command is the same, sudo. Oh, sorry, the command is the same, su, that is switch user. So switch user Abhishek. You can go to Abhishek user. Then you can say switch user Harsha. You can go to the Harsha user. Sorry, my bad. I just talked about the wrong command here. So depending upon which user that you want to do, you can simply use this simple command called switch user and you can go to that specific user. But what I did here is I said sudo su and followed by hyphen. So what are these three commands? So first command is switch user, and before that we are saying substitute user do. So not everybody will be able to go to the root user. So that's why we use a command called sudo. Sudo gives you sudo privileges. Okay. So that means you run some commands on behalf of the root user. So let's say that I want to be on the Ubuntu user only, but only sometimes I want to execute the uh, you know root command. Like out of 10 times, only once I want to go to the root user. So in such cases, what I'll do is I'll continue to use the Ubuntu user, but only when I want to execute the root command. So before the execution of the command, I'll just start with sudo. So sudo followed by su. That is, I want to switch to a different user. So that's the command that I used. Sudo followed by switch user followed by hyphen, that is just go to the root user. Perfect. So I'm with the root user. Okay. So here in this case, what I want to do is I don't want to execute this command as a user called root. So if we go back to the find command, what I'll do is find slash minus name pam. Okay, so this is the file that we are trying to find. If I directly do this, I get permission denied on a lot of the folders, because as a Ubuntu user, I'm not allowed to go and search of all of those files and folders. So if I just append sudo in front of it, that's it. I'm able to search the entire file system, and these are the different files with the name PAM. Okay. So this is how you will use the find command. So find command is a very powerful command. Using the find command, you can search your entire file system, your different files and folders, and you can find out any file that is required. Okay. So these are the things that DevOps engineers usually use. And then you should learn about writing if loops, if else loops, and also for loops. Okay, so these are not at all difficult. Writing a if loop in in shell script is very simple. Let me show you these three things as well: how to write a if loop, how to write a if else loop, and also how to write a for loop. So it will not take much time. Let us quickly jump and write a shell script and see how to execute the if and else loop. If else, okay, let me call this as if else example. And okay, so let me call this as if else. The file name is if else. So you should understand the syntax first. Okay, so if else condition in any programming language, the behavior is the same. It does not depend upon the programming language. Let's say in one of the programming languages, for loop works in a different way, or in other programming languages, for loop work in a different way. No. So if else conditions or for loops, always the behavior is the same, but the syntax is different from programming language to programming language. So let's see how to write if else loop in a shell scripting. Firstly, you start with if, and then you provide what is the expression that is required. Okay, so what do I mean by expression? What is the condition that is required? And if the condition is met, you will say then what I have to do. And let's say you will write something here in the then, and you will say that okay, these are the different things that I want to execute. But if the condition is not met, so go to the else condition and execute these actions, finally get out of my if loop. This is the thing. So in shell scripting, it is slightly funny that if starts with if, and whenever you want to end your if loop, you just write it in reverse saying that fi. So it is reverse of if, and whenever the executor or the compiler finds fi, then it understands that okay, the if loop is end here. So what we'll do is we'll try to replace this one with a real script. So now you understood how to write a if loop, if condition, sorry. Now what I'll say is, let's say, let's take one very simple example and say a is equals to 4, and then let us say b is equals to 10. In shell scripting, there should not be spaces here. So, okay. So let's say a is equals to 4 and let's say b is equals to 10. We will say that if a is greater than b, say a is the bigger number. If b is greater than a, then say b is the greater number. So for that, the execution is very simple. We can say if followed by the brackets that we just learned. We'll say dollar of a, which is a variable. If dollar of a, oh, what happened? Okay, is greater than dollar of b. Okay, so in such case, then you simply say if the condition is met, then echo saying that a is greater than b. If the condition is not met, then using the else statement, you can say else echo b is greater than a. That's it. It is so simple, right? Finally, you close the if condition. Now, if you execute this script, the script will say that okay, a is smaller than b, so that's why this condition is not met. So I'll say b is greater than a. So this is how you write a if condition in shell scripting. Isn't it so simple? Yes. So once you understand this, what you have to do is you have to practice this continuously. Okay, because if you are not practicing the syntaxes, what happens is in our day-to-day life, we come across shell script, we come across Python programs, we come across Go language programs. So we usually forget the syntax. So what you have to do is to keep yourself updated, you have to practice the syntaxes. Am I clear here? Perfect. So you already learned how to write a if else loop. Now, one more important thing is you have to learn how to write for loops. Now, what is for loop? For loop is nothing but, let's say you want to execute some action continuously, okay? Or you want to do multiple iterations of an action, okay? In such cases, we use for loops. Definitely, this is common in every programming language, but in some programming languages, you have while, you have, for loop, you have different types of loops. So we will only talk about for loop for now because all the other loops, depending upon the requirement we use, but most of the times we use for loops. So let's try to understand what is a for loop and how and why is it used. Let's say you are given a task, and your task is to just let's say your task is to print numbers from 1 to 10 for some random reasons, or your task is to print the number of students that are available in a class, or your task is to print all the days in a week. So in such cases you use a for loop. The number of let's say if you are asked to print numbers from 1 to 1 lakh, will you keep writing all the numbers? No. So in such cases what we do is we look for automation. So the automation that we do here is to write the loops. So in shell scripting, like every other programming language, you have loops, like you have a while loop, you have for loop, you have until loop, and you have select loop as well. But what we will do is, for now, we will only learn about the for loop, because most of the times we use for loop. And the syntax and everything is quite easy. One more thing to remember is, depending upon the executable to executable, let's say you want to use bash scripting, you want to use case set scripting, like I said, the for loop syntax will slightly vary, but most of the people are using bash. So that's why your syntax for bash for loop will always remain the same. That is something like this. For I in, you can mention let's say 1 to 100. Okay, you can simply say for I in 1 to 100, do echo dollar of I followed by done. Okay, so if we split the for loop in three statements, what is happening is, the first statement is called for. So what is the for? For is basically the condition. So let's say the number is between 1 and 100, then the condition is met. And what you are saying after that is, do a specific action. So if the condition is met, do a specific action. And once you do that specific action, what you have to do is you have to increment. Okay. So what you are asking the compiler is, okay, so I is equals to 1. The condition is met. So what I'm asking is print 1. After that, before you close the for loop, what I'm saying is increment the condition until the number 100 is reached. So it will first execute the condition, it will perform the action, then it will go for the incrementation, and finally it will complete the for loop using the done statement that you have provided here. So that's how you write a for loop as well. Okay, so the if else conditions, for loops, these are something that you don't have to worry, because if you know the logic, if you know how to use a if else condition, or if you know how to use a for loop, you always have resources on the internet, so you can make sure that, okay, if you are doing something wrong in the syntax, you can always go back and check. But the thing that you have to understand is, understand the concept, understand the basic, how they are used, and what is the purpose of using these commands. Perfect. So these are the things that I wanted to talk today. We have learned about how different scripts that DevOps engineers use. One is the script that we learned, that the node automation. We have learned about the good practices that we have to use any script, and we also looked at if there is a log file, huge log file, and if you want to filter out the information, how do you use that? How do we filter out the information using the curl command? What is the purpose of WGET command? So these are the different things that I wanted to teach you. Finally, there is one more command, that is the trap command. So this is again one of the interview questions, but you will use it like, probably if you're writing 50 to 100 scripts, you might use it once, because the trap command is a very tricky command. What the trap does, okay, so trap is basically used to trap. Okay, so the manual page is also not available. Trap is basically used for trapping signals. So what are signals? Now let me take a couple of minutes to explain you what are signals in Linux. So whatever action that you're performing using your keyboard, or you're performing using some commands. Okay, let's say you're using a kill command. Kill command is basically used to kill a process. Okay, so if a Java process is running and you want to kill it, so what you'll say, kill -9 Java. So if the name of the process is Java, or the process ID, let's say the process ID is 1111. So you basically use the kill command. -9 instructs the Linux compiler or the Linux kernel to say, okay, kill this specific process with this process ID. So what is happening behind the scenes is, when you are executing this command, there is a signal that is passed to the Linux saying that, okay, so this person is asking you to kill a specific file. So this is a signal. And another thing is, let's say there is a script that is getting executed. What we usually do is, to terminate the script, we use Control C. Okay, so when you're pressing Control C, you are pressing it on your keyboard. How does a Linux machine know that, okay, when you press Control C, I have to stop the execution of a script? Let's say I am printing something like this. Yes. So this is a command, and what this command is doing, it is continuously inserting something on my terminal. Okay, it is continuously printing. If you see, there is no end for this. Now I want to stop the terminal. I want to stop this process, or I want to just stop the execution of this process. What I can simply do is I can come here and press Control C. So when I press Control C, what happened is there is a signal that this terminal has received, or there is a signal that this Linux machine has received saying that, okay, so some person has executed Control C and I have to stop the execution of this process. So these are called signals. Okay, in Linux there are multiple signals. Okay, what I can do here is let's quickly take a tab because I can't write all of them here. So let's see Linux signals. So these are the list of signals in Linux. Let me increase the font. So if somebody is asking you what are the different signals that are available in Linux, you can say that there are a lot of signals that are there in Linux, but we usually use some signals like we use the kill command to kill the process. So then your Linux receives a signal called SIG kill. Okay, so kill is a signal. So I cannot basically show you all of these signals because it itself takes a complete class where we go through all of the signal, look at the number of signals that Linux has. Okay, so these are the different signals. But our topic of interest is what is trap command, right? So that's why I just wanted to explain you one signal. So let's say Control C is a signal. So whenever you are executing a script, if somebody presses Control C, your script execution will stop. For example, yes is my script. It keeps on executing something. Somebody came here and pressed Control C. The script execution got stopped, which is not intended. I don't want somebody to come to my machine and press Control C and my script gets stopped. So in such cases, what you can do is you can trap the signal. What is meaning by trap? You can trap the Linux saying that, okay, even if somebody is pressing Control C, understand that I have a trap mechanism that is set on my machine, and even if they press Control C, don't do anything. Or if they press Control C, send me a notification saying that on a email notification using SMTP server, or just print an echo statement saying that, oh, you cannot use the Control C because the owner of the Linux the owner of the Linux machine said that he does not want to execute Control C. Such things can be used by the trap command. Okay, so trap signal is basically something that traps the signals and performs the execution on your behalf. Okay, so the syntax is again very simple. What you can do is you can just give me a second. So you can just say trap followed by whatever you want to execute. Let's say you just want to say trap echo don't use the control plus C. Okay, and what is the signal that you want to trap? Okay, let's say I want to trap a signal called SIG interrupt. Okay, so if somebody is interrupting using Control C, what I want to do is I want to send them this output. Okay, so I want to just say them that echo don't use the Control C. So basically you are saying that the Control C should not work. So you are trapping this entire mechanism. That's why we call it trap. I hope you understood this. And because there are a lot of signals that are available in Linux, practically I cannot go through each and every signal, but theoretically you should understand that using trap command, you can trap any signals that are available on your Linux machine. Sometimes what happens is if we want to take a look at a real-time scenario, if somebody is executing a script and you are using Control C, and the half of the information is let's say there is a database and your shell script is trying to populate the list of users into your database. Okay, and what happened is somebody came to your terminal and they just use Control C, or unfortunately you use Control C. Now what happens is only the half of the information is populated, and the database user thinks that, okay, some information is there and this is the information I can start using. So instead, what you want to do is whenever somebody prints Control C, you say that delete every content. So in such cases, what you say is trap whenever somebody is using uh, SIG int, that is the Control C. What you have to do is rm minus rf star. So if somebody is using Control C, delete everything from the database so that end user will not think, okay, some information is populated, so I can start working. This is the advantage of using a trap signal or the trap command. to trap signals on Linux. So these are the different things that I wanted to explain you. I know that there are some more things that are left over. So if you feel that I missed some commands, please feel free to put that in the comment section. Or if you want me to talk in detail about any of these commands, also put that in the comment section. I'm open to make one more video on this. If you want to understand the curl in depth, or if you want to understand SMTP, you want to understand trap signals in depth, anything that you want to learn, just post that things in the comment section, and I'm open to make new videos on the shell scripting where we will only talk about a specific command in detail. I hope you like this video, and I hope you'll show the same love that you have shown in the previous video. And I can make more videos on Python and the different topics. So just post your request in the comment section, and we can go with the flow accordingly. Thank you so much. If you like this video, click on the like button. If you have any questions, click on the do post them in the comment section, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.